all sitting comfortably, are you? Maybe after this presentation you will change your way of thinking. I hope so. I bring regards from Paavo Nurmi Center. We are studying behavior, we are studying physical activity, physical inactivity, and all things of health and well-being. And I'm bringing some messages to you today. Before we start, I'll bring you back to where we live, to the world we're living in today. This is the planet Earth. Let's think about the megatrends of physical activity and physical inactivity. What's happening around us? Urbanization. We all get together in cities. We want to be close to each other. We want to be close to the services. We want to be close to everything so that we don't waste time, so that we can have everything we need. A good thing. We've doubled the amount of cities, over 100,000 individuals. Passive transportation. How do you go from place to place? You take your car, you take your kids, you make them sit in the back of the car, even if they're going to practice in their training sessions. What's happened with the technology? You all know here at this Biohacker Summit how important these things are to measure how you're doing, how you're performing. And the economic well-being. What has it brought to us? I can tell you, the cars, since 1985, the number of cars has increased with 25%. We've increased videotape recorders over 300%. We have increased internet connections at home with 1,000%. We've increased mobile phones with 1,300%. And we've increased computers at home with 1,500%. Because we can, and we want to buy those things to our kids or to ourselves. And this is giving us all the opportunities. It's giving us much more than we had before. Have there been any changes at work, at the workplace? If you think about how it's changed, from 1960s, the amount of easy work has gone up. Amount of sedentary work, sitting at your desk, has gone up. And the work that requires physical activity is going down. We don't hardly have any hard labor work anymore. I see every now and then, as a physician, patients who are dealing with occupational diseases and problems. There was a guy who was a lumberjack. He came to see me at the office. You know, well, I was interested, of course, what is your work like? And his eyes lit up and he was explaining, you don't know, we got these new machines a short time ago. And you go and sit in there and it starts to kind of put you on the right position. For me, for my co-worker, everybody, personalized working space. And then we start to cut the trees, take off their branches, we peel the trees, we cut them in pieces, and we pile them in big bunches. You know what his problem was? Tendinitis in his wrist. This describes the world we're living in. And in the end, the physical and social environment. You came here to this summit. What did they offer you? You're sitting on these comfortable chairs, enjoying the whole afternoon and in morning. You're sitting there and trying to keep yourself healthy. You're taking good care of yourself. At the same time, something else has happened when these good things have been brought to our world. You see, obesity has increased. Type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, fatty liver, cardiac and cardiovascular diseases, and premature death. All this is happening at the same time with these good things that keep us from keeping ourselves active. Could there be something behind all this? I'll show you a video. Let's see what it says. Just take a second, lean back, enjoy and listen.
In the workplace today, there is a silent killer. It is one of 10 major causes of disability. It is utilized more than anything else in your office. It increases your chances of contracting over 25 chronic diseases. Every person in your office is at risk. It is a leading cause of diabetes, cancer, and heart disease. You are probably using one right now. It is a more immediate economic threat than global warming. Are you sitting down? Meet your killer. Inactivity is the cause of 1.9 million deaths worldwide each year. There are now steps your company can take.
Thank you. So now we know what we're talking about. What does scientific research tell about if you sit a lot? If you spend a lot of time sitting, it increases your risk of obesity, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular disease, fatty liver, and premature death. Did you hear what the list was before, with the megatrends of physical activity and inactivity? At the same time, when we're given the easier work, the passive workspaces and everything, this is what happens with us. When I was running the studies on fatty liver, it's a condition that is associated with diabetes, it's associated with metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular disease. We looked at people and their livers, and we noticed that something was going on. I'll show you in a second. But at the same time, I realized we thought that fatty liver starts to develop in 30, 35 years. But now, with the kids, the youngsters who start at the early age, they have the same development in 10 or 15 years. This is the kind of work we're doing, like I said. Light, sedentary work increases. Physical activity at work is decreasing. It used to be that we went to work to do some physical stuff, but now we work passively, we come home, and as I may as a doctor tell you that physical activity is good, you try to find time to do it because you don't get it naturally anymore. Here are some results from our studies. This is a study where we looked at people and their waist circumference. We divided people in 3 groups. Those who were inactive, moderately active, or very active physically. And as you see, when you go to the activity side, your waistline becomes a little bit narrower. The columns are a little bit lower. That was no news. We know that physical activity is good for your weight. But what was interesting to me was to think about, let's take the low activity group, and those who watch TV for 1 hour or less a day, a little bit more, or for 3 hours or more a day. Let's see their waist circumference, the extremities. As you see, we look at those and these individuals. The difference in their waistline was about over 7 centimeters. All right, let's take the other group that was moving, they were physically active a little bit more. Again, 1 hour maximally, or 3 hours or more of TV a day. Their waist circumference difference was 7 centimeters. What about those guys who were practicing and were actively participating in physical activity? Their difference was almost 7 centimeters. Something happens if you spend enough time sitting and at your desk at work or wherever. This was TV in this case, because TV is one of the bad guys. I told you about the liver study, and this here is telling you what happens. We followed people for 10 years, and we looked at their liver values. You see, this is the group that was sitting in front of TV 3 hours or more every day. And these are the others, and this is the one that was sitting maximally 1 hour a day. Clear difference what happens in their body. And when we look at their fatty liver index, which is calculated from body waist circumference, body mass index, your liver enzymes, and free fatty acids. You see the difference, what's happening. It's very clear from the beginning. And then we didn't believe after these two things that this was happening and this was true. We wanted to see it with our eyes. And we looked at their livers with ultrasound. And you see, they had over double the risk of fatty liver, regardless if they ate well, regardless if they were exercising, regardless if they drank alcohol or not, which all increase the risk of fatty liver. So something starts to happen the more time you spend sedentary. Are you still willing to sit down? High amount and prolonged sitting is the most harmful sedentary behavior. I'll show you. We used to study these things by asking people, how much do you exercise, sweat, and breathe heavily? And people said half an hour every other day, and so on and so on. We saw that they were doing better than the others. But nowadays, we can see a little bit more because we have all these devices. You as biohackers know how it is. And now we can see how much light physical activity there is, how much changes in position there is, and what that does to our health. We are not talking about the sweating and exercising anymore only. It's important, don't misunderstand me. But now, I give you an example. A guy was followed up. He kept this measuring device that measured his physical activity. He's the kind of person who had learned that half an hour, 5 times a week is good for your health. And this is what he did in the morning. These high peaks describe it. What happened during the rest of the day? As you see, not very much. There was one peak here that went into this moderate activity area. You know what was happening then? He forgot his mobile phone in the car. And of course he had to get it back as soon as possible. All right, but his colleague is not the kind of exercising type. But he was working in the office and his curve looked like this. Oh, sorry. You see the difference? There are these peaks going to the moderate activity area much more. And now when we see this and can see how these people do with their health, that makes a big difference. So the more peaks you can get, the more important it is. Canadians have examined this sedentary behavior and the bouts, how long you sit still. There was one study when after lunch they took people and put one group to sit down for 2 hours, not to stand up. The other group was sitting for 2 hours as well, but the difference was that they got up every 20 minutes. Like this, you know, just moving a little bit and then sitting down again. Repeating that after the following 20 minutes during these 2 hours. And when they took samples of their femoral muscles and investigated the genes, this is what they noticed. They noticed that the genes that control glucose metabolism, fat metabolism, and your inflammation in your body, they were down-regulated. They were not working. But in the group that was standing up every now and then, their genes were working normally. Do you still want to sit down? Or do you want to stand up a little bit? Okay, here is one study from Canadians as well, 13 years of follow-up. They looked at individuals and how they lived. If there were people who were mostly in the sitting position, like here, how many of those people were alive after 13 years? You see that almost 20% of them had died. Those guys who were kind of up and down, I'm not saying that you have to stand all the time, but who were more up and kind of active, almost all of them were still strong and going. Well, is standing at work then the solution? If you stand 7 hours a day, that's why I have Gumba with me, my best friend. Well, first of all, you all know these stand-up desks. Is this a solution? Is this how you should do it? Now, he's standing there on the hard floor. He's there in a bad position. He hasn't done it. His body is not in good shape. His muscles can't keep the tone. Is that good? I don't think so. But if he knows how to do it, he can. You see the difference? The position is good, and he has a good friend that keeps his legs, his hips moving sideways and rotating, and you can stand up more. You can have more activity. Your intervertebral discs get a massage instead of standing still like this. It's a big difference. This is modern Finnish design, modern Finnish invention. And this is what we should be thinking of when we work at the workplace. All right, let's think about the day. Here are two individuals. Lisa, who is starting as a physical active person, and she's learned that 5 times a week, 30 minutes, like sweating a little bit, getting out of breath a little bit, and then twice a week, physical activity in the gym, also for your muscles. And then there is her friend Mary. Mary is kind of a developed person, and she now trains only 3 times a week, but very hard, you know, in the spinning lesson with the instructor giving the pace and music playing in the background, the way it is. And then twice a week, also the muscular exercises. This is exactly how we recommend health-enhancing physical activity. Okay, let's take one day out of their lives. This is the day when the spinning was taking place. You know, you put in your Facebook, you take your all possible places where you can put, I did this again, and your friends are kind of surprised. How can she do it every single week, so many times? But what happens in the day of her life? She drives like 45 minutes, 30 minutes a day to the workplace. Then the ergonomic work site, sitting there, not doing anything else than, you know, taking the phone calls, all possible things in that immobile position. Then going back home again in the car. After that, okay, you promise to go do the grocery shopping to keep the family alive and well. But luckily there are these shopping centers which don't only have escalators, but the kind of bands that take you, like at the airports. I'm afraid that they will soon go in the shops and they go between the shelves, you know, and you just pick the things from here and there. All right, I don't feel like cooking because it's a hard day at work. So I take my mobile phone, I call to the pizzeria, and I order the pizza. And when the show starts, bold and beautiful, most probably, you have your dinner in front of you. And then everything is fine until the show finishes. A little bit of depression, but luckily you just took the cable TV, 150 channels in your reach. And then you start, no, 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 that's a big no. Oh, but this is interesting. There's always something. And then you remain in your throne, sitting there for the rest of the evening, prolonged sitting, like I said, which is the most dangerous thing. Okay, then it comes to the point when you need to go to bed around midnight. But of course, you have to go back to Facebook and your emails and check them again and write to friends, hi buddies, I'm going to bed now, sleep tight, dream well, see you tomorrow. She did exactly what was told, 25 minutes of hard exercise. But what I'm saying, yes, it's health-enhancing physical activity, but is it a healthy lifestyle? You can decide on your own. Do we need an attitude change? We've been thinking about so many minutes, so many times a day. I say sleep 8 hours, exercise for half an hour. What do you do with your 15.5 hours a day? How do you do your work day? How do you do your free time? What do you do then? Pictures speak more than 1,000 words. Therefore, I leave you with this last picture. Yes, we've been taught at school to sit still and remain silent, be cool, be quiet. But I'm telling you, it's time to stop it now. Now you can stand up, please. Thank you.